Sepupz, I may have gotten bullied, but there ain't no time for a pity party, cause I'm not the only one. Cause in Malaysia, bullying isn't just a disease, it's a pandemic. Sepupz, pandemics are diseases that are prevalent over the entire country and world. I'm sure that many of you remember COVID. Well, bullying in Malaysia is exactly like that. Wherever it is that you go, no matter what platform, whether YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Insta, you're gonna see bullying everywhere. No surprise, because UNICEF actually ranked Malaysia second in Asia for cyberbullying. I'm sure a lot of you have seen all those like type C, type I, type K comments, but bullying in this country isn't related to a specific race or religion. Sure, you have the Ibrahim J. Mariwas, and you have the whole bunch of people just casually throwing out racist comments one after another, but you probably remember also that the bullying case with Praline Scream, Izan Chong, Mei Chun Ho, and Kevin, every single one of those people were Chinese.
Then we have this joker who lives in Singapore, Tahniah Satu Malaysia.
Add all of that on to the Zara Karina, Johor, and Saya Bukan Pembuli case out there, and I think you can see we have a bit of a problem. Because somehow we have this culture, right, where it's acceptable for people to go out there and then start screaming at people, express their emotions, while having a very high chance of getting away scot-free. And seriously, it is so damn toxic. If you go online and you just look at the comment section, sometimes I just have to wonder, right? Like, what is actually happening out there? What is this country becoming? I mean, I don't know whether people are stressed, they have pressure, they were taught wrongly, or somehow there's some sort of like social psychosis that's going on, right? But the kinds of negative comments that you can see on the internet over the smallest things, right, are insane. And to be fair, it's not like the Malaysian government hasn't tried. Last year, a TikTok live got so damn toxic that this girl named Esha went and killed herself because she got death and rape threats from people who don't even bat an eyelid as they're casually writing out these comments one after another, expressing their emotion, freedom of speech. After which the government said, you know what, this is not acceptable. We're going to put in the Esha clause to stop people from cyberbullying, which maybe would have been nice to have way before she had to make a police report, way before she hung herself, and way before we had such a toxic ecosystem that somehow one of the people she complained about was a so-called anti-cyberbullying advocate. And yes, I'm not joking, like actually anti-cyberbullying advocate, left the court smiling, held up a heat bag as she got into her white Mercedes as they drove back off, possibly to the psychiatric home that this person was running. Wow.
Don't understand what they were trying to get from flexing the bag, but okay.
You know, I think words can barely describe just how colossally messed up that is. But that's exactly what we're dealing with right now, where apparently even our heroes can be people like that. So if that's your hero, I hate to even imagine what the villains are like.
But what about the law then?
When you look at a country like Malaysia, where the courts take donkey years to actually operate, I find it hard to believe that the laws are going to actually protect people. I mean, do you expect the MCMC to take every single user to court? Mitigate the damage? It doesn't really happen, does it? And also, if you look at the wording of the law, it seems to me that at least parts of it protect
perpetrators
in the first place
and can be used against the victims.
Let me give you an example. Penal Code Amendment Number 2 Act 2024, Section 507E. Whoever in any manner or by any means publishes, circulates, or makes available or causes to be published, circulated, or made available any identity information of a person with intent to cause or knowing or ought to know that the publication, circulation, or availability is likely to cause harassment, distress, fear, or alarm to the person shall be punished with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years, or with fine, or with both. See, I get where this comes from, right? Like, you wanna not allow, for example, people to publish like revenge porn or any number of other things like that. But then what if you're just somebody, right, who wants to let people know that this is the person who bullied me, this is what they did, I'm not standing for it, this is unacceptable. In that case then, can you get prosecuted by the law? I mean, that's an interesting question, right? But it's a valid one as well. Because if you think about it, there is a fine line, right? It's like, if you're trying to highlight the bad things that a person did to you, do you then have to be silent? Or should you be okay with speaking about it and helping other people to overcome problems like this by making sure that if somebody serves as an aggressor against you, or if they attack you, then you can respond in self-defense? I think there needs to be some nuance when it comes to actually formulating laws like these and interpreting given the context. At the end of the day, legislators should not be unintentionally creating laws that end up protecting bullies and allowing victims to continue being tortured under the legal system. I don't think that's right. Cause I know, right, that like if it's a case in school, for example, then the principal will call you over, and then regardless of who started the fight, then basically you both get punished. Of course, if somebody talks about a situation publicly, then sure, they're distributing the entire case to the world, but if the law is failing you and MCMC is not serving its role, right, and the platform that you could report to does nothing about the situation, then basically you are in a lose-lose system that ends up causing victims, right, to spiral, to go further down, and not be able to fight back against cruel people who think that it is their entitlement to go out there and abuse people while saying it's freedom of speech. But see, beyond all those CMA amendments and politician speeches, right, I think there's something a lot more fundamental that we need to do to treat the pandemic, and that is to change the culture. Sepupz, if Malaysia were a single organism, then I think that the culture would be its immune system. By right, the immune system can deal with viruses and bad behaviors, which makes sense. When people say things about your society that don't fit into the society, then as a person living in Malaysia, then maybe you can reject those elements. We were colonized by the British, but we are not British. We watch American TV shows and K-dramas, but we don't become American or Korean. It makes sense because we have a sense of identity, self, and purpose. But see, right, your immune system can also go very wrong, I think. And we think about the current situation where people somehow feel that it's okay to go out and abuse people left, right, front, and center. It feels almost like our immune system has gone wild. Sure, I think if you personally feel attacked or under pressure, right, it's natural to respond aggressively against people. Because no matter what, you have to defend yourself. But it's not easy to draw the line between defend and attack. But what's pretty clear is
We are all interdependent, we depend on one another for our well-being, which means that we learn from and rely upon one another to build this thing that we call Malaysia.
if you're going out there and then randomly spamming people with comments because you don't like what they're saying and you somehow feel that you have a right to insult them, right, that definitely crosses the line into bullying. In my opinion, if you come across somebody that you don't know, you've never met before, you should treat the person the way you would treat a stranger in real life. Because like, let's say for example, you don't like the way that I speak, right? How do you know that the way that I speak is not because of a speech impediment? Maybe I am an OKU. Maybe I'm just going out and then learning how to speak for the very first time in my life. You don't know. I mean, of course, if you watch my channel, then you know that I am able to speak, and quite well in fact. But just as a general rule, right, it is true that when you look at random people that you see on the internet, whether on TikTok, or YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, every single one of them is a living human being with their own preferences, tastes, pride, and dignity. Just because you are not happy with your own life, you're insecure, you're angry with something, or you genuinely see that there's something wrong, right? There is no reason why you should be going out there and then trying to cause offense, pain, or hurt to another person just because you feel, I can go ahead and do it one lah, they will be a better person, I'm so right. It doesn't work that way. I'm sure, for example, that some people have good intentions, like maybe if we want to stretch it, then the flag people, they actually have good intentions, but the way that you do things also matters. You cannot be going out there and then just writing and then like organizing gigantic groups of people to show people how many people you have and intimidate them into so-called following your advice. Now I know that a lot of these people, they have mental problems or personal, financial, social, I don't know, problems themselves.
Or they have agendas. You cannot just say, oh no, they have problems, we cannot blame them.
That doesn't give you an excuse to go out there and hurt people. We know hurt people, but if you are part of a broken cycle, your job is not to continue that cycle, it is to break it. It is to look at your own behavior, see where it's gone wrong, understand lu sini sudah messed up, you can throw that part of you away. Somehow or another, if everyone in Malaysia were to do that, then we can literally throw the laws away. No need for any cyberbullying laws because people won't be bullying people in the first place. And in my mind, if you are the person who throws the first punch and it can be clearly established that you're the person who threw the first punch, right, then you should bear every consequence out there. And in an ideal world, right, any retaliation can be arbitrary, it can be aimed at completely destroying you and everything that you love on this planet. But we live in a society with laws, order, and morality, which is why we don't do that. Because otherwise, it's very easy for us to become cyberbullies very easily as well. But clearly, just like with the COVID pandemic, right, resolving this problem is going to be very complicated. If somebody starts bullying first, then can people bully them back? If the answer is no, then can we have a legal and enforcement system that acts fast enough to eliminate the harm or the cycle of bullying that the person should never have started in the first place? How do we navigate that line, knowing very clearly that there are some things that we just cannot normalize in this world? If we want to prevent another Esha, another Zara, another Johor bullying case, or any of the other thousands of others that are happening right now away from our sight.
Gandhi said, to change the world, change ourselves. But what can we change about the ecosystem and what should we change?
I invite regulators, bully victims, parents, teachers, and every single one of you out there to think about what kind of culture, what kind of immune system we really need against bullying, and how we are going to neutralize this in the first place. Should we only just educate people? What if people are malicious and the problem isn't education? Should you let people in society respond more effectively? What is acceptable? How far can we go in neutralizing them? What can we do to neutralize them if it's not our own individual actions, if it's not a lawsuit, if it's not any number of social engineering actions that we take in order to ensure that they permanently are unable to respond?
And if there's no response, then can the government really stop or prevent people from coming out, protesting, and eventually doing what they need in order to get justice?
Well, that's a question that I direct to you, who are possibly smarter than me, and may have a lot more to say about that. So with that in mind, I want to know what you think, Sepupz. How do we deal with bullies in Malaysia, whether online or offline? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And that's all I have to say about that, and bye.